Thank you. I would like to call the Monday, September 18th, 2023 Board of Education meeting to order at 7:03. Will you all please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Riccio, would you be kind enough to read the mission statement?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Wait, I need glasses. The Orange Elementary School District recognizes that the education of each child is the shared responsibility of every member of our community. Our goal is to inspire and empower each student to achieve academic excellence, embrace social and individual responsibility, and lead with integrity. We believe all individuals should be valued and treated with respect. Together, we will make a difference.
Thank you. Before we move on to public participation, I'd like to say happy birthday to Ms. Riccio.
Again?
Ms. James informed us that it's Ms. Riccio's birthday. I don't believe we have any public participation. No? Okay. All right, so I'm looking for a motion to accept the first item under the consent agenda. The first item is the minutes from the August 21st, 2023 Board of Education meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from the August 21, 2023 Board of Education meeting? Ms. Riccio, Mr. Ziman, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Liz? You got all that? Okay. Let's see. All right, I guess we're moving right on to the superintendent's report. No?
Good evening, board members.
Yeah.
All set, Mr. Crow?
Yep.
Good evening. I trust that all you had a wonderful time at the country fair over the weekend. It's always a great way to kick off the fall season and experience just one of the reasons that makes Orange such a special place. As you are aware, we welcomed our students back to school on Monday, August 28th. Like every year, the first week or so has brought some adjustments. We've been working on fine-tuning things such as bus schedules, dealing with the exciting first day of school of the photo phenomenon, and coordinating with Amity bus routes to ensure our students are dropped off and picked up on time. Additionally, we are continuing with the Pick My Kid procedures that we've implemented last year, aimed at ensuring a smooth and safe dismissal process. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to our parents for their patience as we navigate through these first few weeks of school. At our last board meeting, we expressed our gratitude to the custodians and the facilities supervisor for their tireless efforts in preparing our schools. This goes beyond just making our schools presentable. It's about ensuring the health and safety of everyone with our school community. As customary, in a moment we'll be providing an update on the summer work that has taken place, and next month we will give a technology report. As the school year has kicked off, so has our school events. All schools have already hosted their open houses, and we are grateful that we are returning to a sense of normalcy with fewer restrictions than in previous years. However, we do recognize that illnesses are still part of life. If a student or a staff member isn't feeling well, we kindly request that they stay home until they are not only feeling better, but also are fever-free for at least 24 hours. In a moment, we will update the board on the grants we received, though would like to share a correction that occurred with one of them. We also share this with the Finance Subcommittee. Our mental health support grant, initially we shared the value of that grant was $37,860, which has been used to provide training to our staff to better support our students. This was less than what we requested. After that meeting, we reached out to the state, and we received and subsequently received communication that our allocation is $50,000 for this year and the following year, and the third year would be $35,000. So we appreciate the support from the state and the correction on those funds. Lastly, while my report has focused on the opening of the school year, I'd like to share that as early as the end of this month, the 2024-2025 budget process will kick off, believe it or not. Budget collection documents will be sent to department heads by the end of September, marking the beginning of our journey towards planning and managing our budget for the following year. And again, as we begin, I want to thank all of you for your continued support and look forward to working together to make the school year a successful one.
That's it, Dr. Scarpetti?
That's it for right now, Mr. Crowe.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Scarpetti? Very well. Thank you, Dr. Scarpetti. Mr. Gray, would you like to give your report, please?
Sure. I'll start off with grants, as Dr. Scarpetti said. The ARP ESSER 3 grant that I've been discussing for the past several years, $326,181 allocation. We've spent over the life of this grant so far $229,320. There still remains $96,861. The primary use of this has been for summer learning the past few summers, and there is some that is also earmarked for some HVAC. We also have the ARP ESSER Innovative After School grants for both Peck Place and Racebrook schools. Those were in the amount of $239,549 each, for a total of $479,098. To date, we've actually spent $310,757 of that for programming, and we still have $168,341 remaining for this year to be spent by June 30th. Our Summer Enrichment Grant, which was an original allocation of $299,986, was actually split directly in half this past year and for next year. So we've spent $149,993, and we have $149,993 to spend this year. The ARPA Online Abuse Prevention Grant that Dr. Russo spoke about last month, which is a collaboration with the Orange Police Department to elaborate on their SOAR program, is in the amount of $30,000. That has not yet been spent at all. There's also the ARPA Right to Read grant. That was in the amount of $39,500 for assistance with K-3 scientifically based, evidence-based literacy teaching and learning. That has not begun to be used yet. Also, the grant that Dr. Scarpetti was speaking about, the ARPA Summer Mental Health Support Grants, that is for the delivery of mental health services to students during summer programming, and again, that's $50,000 this year. And finally, the ARPA School Mental Health Specialist Grant, which is used for hiring and maintaining school mental health specialists. This year, the budgeted amount is $92,505,000. And that concludes the grants. Food services. Pursuant to Public Act 23-204, $16 million of federal American Rescue Plan Act funds have been allocated for free meals for students to the Connecticut State Department of Education for the 2023-24 school year. What this means is these funds are being used by the state of Connecticut to provide lunch at zero cost for students eligible for reduced meals in the National School Lunch Program. These funds are referred to as State Transition Assistance for Breakfast and Lunch Expense, or STABLE funds. And it was mentioned last month that students who are qualified for reduced meals will now get them for free based on these funds. Also mentioned last month, paid lunch price this year has been set at $3.15 per meal for the 2023-24 school year. And finally, all families who believe they may qualify for free or reduced lunch are encouraged and reminded to submit an application. Families can find the free or reduced lunch application and other relevant materials on our website if they go to the Departments tab and click on Food Services. And finally, under Finance, the audit. The 2022-23 Educational Financial System, or EFS reporting, was completed and certified by the superintendent on August 30th, ahead of the statutory deadline of September 1st. The auditors will continue their work in September on the 2022-2023 agreed-upon procedures audit, as well as a general audit of financial procedures. And that concludes the finance portion.
Go ahead, Susan.
Just a quick question. I'm glad to hear that the initial report that Dr. Scarpetti signed was early, which is great. Are they still on track to be making the end-of-year deadline?
They are. They actually came and met with all of the staff here in the finance department to go over all of our procedures and policies that we use in our accounting practices back in mid-August, so that was ahead of schedule.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Gray? Finance? Go ahead, Tatiana.
Mr. Gray, this actually relates to the after-school grant that you speak of, and it may be a question more for Dr. Russo, but remind me again why the after-school grant is for Peck Place and Racebrook and not Turkey Hill. Is there a reason why it's just for those two schools, and does it include Turkey Hill? Or I know Turkey Hill students are allowed to go to Racebrook and Peck Place to be involved in those programs, but why were those schools chosen?
I don't remember the answer to that.
We were only allowed to choose 2 schools, so we chose the 2 largest, but reaching out to the state, we did not want to not include Turkey Hill, and so that's how they were involved, by
understand.
going to their, and providing the transportation. But we'll see what other the grants that have popped up, but that was the main reason, because of the enrollment numbers there.
Thank you for clarifying.
Anyone else for Mr. Gray on finance? Very well. You want to do your second report, Mr. Gamere?
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay. So I wanted to start off the facilities updates, first letting you know there's a lot that happens during the summer behind the scenes. From capital projects that we were fortunate enough to get funding for, to the cleaning of our buildings from top to bottom. And when I say top to bottom, I mean top to bottom. So I really want to start off by congratulating and recognizing our staff for, all their hard work and effort they put in behind the scenes to keep our buildings safe and clean throughout the year. It's no small task getting these buildings done during the summer. There are quite a few classrooms and offices and cafeterias, libraries in each of our buildings, and it does take a lot of time because they're emptying the furniture out of every single room, doing the work they have to do, and then loading all that furniture back in. So it's kind of a monumental task that they get this done, and really proud to be a part of this team. So each building has 2 custodians. We have an AM custodian and we have a PM custodian. AM custodians are from 7 to 3 p.m. and our PM custodians are 1 to 9 p.m. So they overlap a couple of hours, which helps as well. So our AM custodians are Dean Manley, Joe Spargo, Steve Szymanski, and Kathy Manley. And then our PM custodians, James Walker, Chris Polimas, Jeff Skronsky, and Sean Murray. We also have a part-time utility custodian who is kind of like a building sub. So when someone's out, he'll fill in for them, and it's great because he knows all of our buildings. But he also serves as our mail courier for the district and between town hall and us. And then we have our supervisor of maintenance custodians, Joe Mateus, who oversees them, but also takes care of all of our maintenance as well. Also, during the summer, our custodians work as a group because they used to work separate. 2 custodians in each building. Took a long time, and this is a process that was begun by Dr. Scarpetti a couple of years ago. It seems to work really well. And a couple of the things that it really helps with is we're using consistent materials. So we're not using one type of material or cleaning product in one building and it's totally separate in another building. So the cleaning has become consistent, and then the process itself has become consistent. Our facilities maintenance goals, obviously we want to maintain a safe and clean environment in every school. We want to use those resources effectively and efficiently. We want to establish and implement effective preventive maintenance program. I'll get into that a little bit further in a couple of slides. And then obviously developing the annual capital needs with the help of the Buildings and Grounds Subcommittee, the administrators in the buildings, as well as custodians and maintenance. We also have established priorities for prioritizing our work. So as you can imagine, we get tickets every day for work that comes in, but you really have to prioritize these to make sure that they're getting done in a timely manner. Now, obviously, anything that's an emergency that could have an effect on the opening of school is going to be top of the list. So that might be something like a power outage, which we've experienced on several occasions. A plumbing issue, knock on wood, that we have not experienced yet in my tenure. So it's a large-scale disruption. That's the emergency situation that would be prioritized, number one. Then there's safety. So anything that's identified in a building or on the outside of a building that could potentially be a safety hazard, that would be next on the list. Third is preventive maintenance. Now, as everybody knows, when you buy a vehicle, they have a preventive maintenance plan. You try to bring your car in every 3,000 to 5,000 to change the oil. You bring it in every 10, 15, 25, 30,000 miles. They do preventive maintenance. This is to keep you from having these surprise issues that come up that if you were doing these maintenance items, you would have known about and taken care of ahead of time, so you didn't have a, I don't want to use the word catastrophic, but you have a failure, which could cost more money in the long run. So a few years ago, when we put together the long-range plan for facilities, one of the items in there is preventive maintenance. And I think I put some statistics in there that really, when you start out, preventive maintenance is about 10% and reactive maintenance is about 90%. We're really trying to flip that as much as possible. But as you can imagine, older buildings, you do have a lot of reactive. And even when you're keeping up with preventive maintenance, you still have some reactive maintenance that you have to take care of. But we really are trying really hard to do as much preventive maintenance, especially on our HVAC. Since COVID, we've really done a lot with our HVAC system and continue to do that as far as preventive maintenance. Reactive maintenance is after that, and we do have components that break down from time to time, and we have to deal with that. And then finally, the event support, so that's helping out with PTAs, PTOs, and school functions, setting up tables, chairs, and breaking them down. As mentioned previously, a procedure begun by Dr. Scarpetti of having the custodians work together, move from building to building during the summer months, really creates consistency on how the buildings are cleaned. We follow the same top to bottom, so we start with the light fixtures. These lenses are all on hinges. They come down, we vacuum inside, we wipe the lenses down, put them back up. We clean the return and supply vents in the ceilings. We dust all the areas of the ceiling tiles that need to be dusted. Then they go to the walls, the countertops, the sinks, cabinets. They take the furniture out of the room, they clean that. Then we do the floors while everything is out of the classroom. It all gets loaded back into the classroom. This goes for every room, like I said, classrooms, offices, the library, cafeteria, kitchen, they all get done. This is what classrooms look like when they're finished. So the one in the middle is obviously the classroom has been emptied. They finish the floor, and they're probably prepping to put the desks back together. In the other classrooms, you can see the furniture's already set up. They look somewhat bare because the teachers haven't been in to set up the rooms the way they like them yet with all their bulletin boards. The teachers at the end of the year are asked to provide a map for custodians so they know where the furniture goes when they put it back in the room. Also preparing for opening of school, again, HVAC system. We've continued to align our HVAC schedule to guidelines from the Connecticut Department of Public Health that came out through the Adapt Advanced Achieve document. And that is called the COVID protocol. Basically what that is our occupancy is actually begun 2 hours before anybody truly occupies the building, and it extends 2 hours beyond the time that anybody is occupying the building. And the premise behind that is to flush out all of the air outside of occupancy. And then we're continuing to change our filters on a regular basis. I included these pictures because you probably hear me sometimes talk about air handlers or univentilators or rooftop units, and these are just a few examples of each. And they do all contain filters that get changed on a regular basis. The next few slides are about projects completed through town capital funds. So thanks to assistance from the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen through town capital funding, we're able to complete several projects this summer with much needed improvements to our buildings. The first was the removal of deteriorating cedar shakes on the mansard roof of the 6th grade wing of Peck Place School. We replaced that with a version in vinyl that matches the remainder of the building. The rest of the building had vinyl on it. So we used Cedar Impressions vinyl shakes. It looks just like the rest of the building, but you can see they were really deteriorating extensively around the building. They were just falling off the building. Woodpeckers had gotten into them on a couple of the corners. So what they did is they stripped it down. You can see there was tar paper underneath. So they took that down. You can see the plywood underneath. The sheathing was in really good condition. We didn't have any issues with that whatsoever. But what we've done this time is instead of using tar paper or felt paper, we used a waterproof membrane that adheres to the plywood. And then they put the vinyl siding over that, so you have a waterproof envelope around the mansard roof. We also had the removal and replacement of the front steps of Turkey Hill School. They run the length of the entire front entrance of Turkey Hill School. As you can see from these first few photos, they also had deteriorated quite a bit. There were chunks missing. Lots of repairs had been done over time. Rebar was sticking out in a couple of places, some larger chunks falling out, definitely becoming a fall hazard and tripping hazard. So the company came in, they saw cut evenly across the top and along the sides. They jackhammered the rest out. This is just a picture of when they were forming the steps with the rebar inside to reinforce the concrete. And the bottom is a couple of finished photos of what the steps now look like. And this was just before the first day of school. So a nice set of steps to welcome everybody back into school. Another capital project that I didn't include in this was the furniture for Racebrook School, the furniture refurbishment. And the reason for not including that this time, and I think I mentioned it last time, Dr. Scarpetti might have actually mentioned it, is we're following a process we did when we purchased furniture for Turkey Hill School, which is to get samples of the actual furniture before we purchase it, to bring it into the classrooms, to allow the students and staff to use it and apply it in class situations, and then getting feedback from the staff and students as to which ones fit best in the classroom, which were more conducive to the learning environment, and which were most comfortable before we go and spend money on something that they're not comfortable in. So we're doing that. We just received the furniture Friday at Racebrook School. They'll be putting it in the classrooms and then trying it out for a few weeks, and then we'll start to order those products. Another item that was taken care of this summer were updates made to the Peck Place School playground to provide more access and inclusivity with the addition of several pieces of new equipment. There's also a poured-in-place rubber surface that has replaced the traditional playground chips. The poured-in-place rubber is a safer surface, provides more accessible transitions to the playground and the equipment. And it's definitely more durable and lasts a lot longer than the wood chips, which have to be replaced every year or two on the playground. So you'll see the first couple of photos. Just doesn't look good first and foremost when the weeds start to grow around it. And you can see that line of weeds doesn't really create a good transition into the playground or accessibility. This is where they excavated all the wood chips out down to a solid surface. They put in some piping to ensure good drainage underneath. Then they filled that in with several inches of gravel. And the next few photos will show the process of putting in the poured in place. So this is the poured in place rubber, the first part of it, which is it's like a shredded rubber that they use. And they lay it down, it's moldable, and it hardens pretty quickly. So within a day, it's already hardened, but it's a spongy surface. This is one of the new pieces of equipment, and it's a roll-in, it's called a We-Go-Round, and you can roll into it, or someone that might have a walker could also access it. And it's just what they say, it's a We-Go-Round, and kids on the outside can push it, and it spins, and there's also a wheel inside that you can pull, and it spins itself. And then we have a walk-up. This is a tri-panel option here that has some musical instruments on one side. It has some games on another, on two other sides. And then the next photo. Oop. There we go. This is with the poured in place. You might see that round circle there. That is actually a manhole cover for the septic system. So what they do is, so that if you ever have to access that, they actually make that a different color so you know where to cut around and then replace. And you can see the transition right on the front. It's this nice smooth transition now from the pavement onto the playground. Provides quite a bit more accessibility. Much easier to navigate surface as well. Nice smooth surface. And it is very spongy. So if you do happen to fall, someone happens to fall, you really won't get hurt too badly. Another project taken over the summer, replacement of VCT tile down in the Racebrook School hallway. This is in the main hallway outside the library. There were some non-skid tiles out there. Unfortunately, the floor underneath, the surface underneath was not prepped properly, and the tiles were starting to chip and come up. So we took all those tiles out in that one section, and instead of using the non-slip, because it's a flat floor, you really don't need it, the ramp does, but this portion doesn't, we put the VCT tile down because it's able to take more of a beating, it's more durable in the main hallway. The Mary L. Tracy Courtyard, over the years, this courtyard has kind of become overgrown, and we weed it every year, but it's hard to keep up with. So this year, when we did the cleanup of the buildings before the start of the school year, the landscapers came in, and we did something a little different. They prepped all of the gardens. They put down a couple of layers of paper in each of the gardens, and then we put down some three-quarter gravel to keep the weeds at bay. And it dressed it up really nicely in the courtyard, because they do use that for the preschools. They do recess out there sometimes with them. They have their little playhouses out there, whatnot. They also do the preschool graduations out there, and then staff eats lunch out there on the picnic table. So we want something a little more inviting than overgrown weeds. And with that, I just bring us back to really what are the goals of our facilities and maintenance department. And again, you know, first and foremost, it's maintaining a safe and clean learning environment in every school, using our resources effectively, efficiently, establishing an effective preventive maintenance program, and developing our capital plan needs, which that process actually begins November 10th. Our capital plans for every town department are due November 10th, and then meetings will begin or probably early December. I happen to be an ad hoc member on that committee, so I get to attend those meetings as well.
Mr. Kraut, if I may, before, if any board members has any questions, Mr. Gray, would you mind going back to the Peck Place Playground?
Sure. Just let me know which one you want.
That's perfect. So I know some of our board members were Peck Place parents, but I know a lot of people came up. Some of the questions that we've had throughout the years, and as a reminder to all of you, we've done each playground each year. So we start off at MLT, then Racebrook, Turkey Hill. During that time, and I want to thank Donnie Fourier and Mr. Smalls, behind that, and Mike, chime in whenever you want, because you're better describing of what occurred, but a trench was built in order for the water to drain, and then currently, those green pipes that were in a previous picture helped with the drainage. So for those people that may have had students at Peck Place or watching at home, all those chips would be in where people would park or play, because we would get flooded. And so I'm happy to report a little, with the preparation, we've had a lot of rain. There was no puddling, there was no water, there was no little pools around that area. So that preparation really paid off. And like I said, if you haven't had time to stop and visit at any of our playgrounds, they're beautiful, and we appreciate the support provided. But what a difference it's made. And then just as a reminder, and Mike, you could just go to the last slide. It's really important about the systems we created. So this is more for the people watching at home than all of you. But I could remember way back when, and again, I think this was spearheaded by all of you, but specifically Mr. Cap as his guidance with me with the technology department and creating a long-range plan with technology. That rippled to the building and grounds. And so for those of you that are at home, but all of you here know that we share our long-range plans with regarding each subcommittee with all of you in the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. But throughout the entire year, we review it. So it's a living, breathing document. And so it's not just a silo, but it's in collaboration with the subcommittee members, but also our principals where we go over that. So for example, Mr. Gray just mentioned about the capital planning committee, and we can't thank the Board of Finance and the capital planning committee, because we're not the only department that goes to them and asking them for money. It's all the departments, and we wouldn't be able to do those things without them. So it's an important piece. Mr. Gray and I, we have already started conversations, but we'll continue with our principals. Mr. Cap, you'll be getting a call soon to arrange a meeting with the subcommittee meeting where we'll present what our findings are. Consequently, we also have feedback from our subcommittee members because we went to each school before the start of the year. So this is all connecting to have that focus and goal, and also revisiting it when we can. So just as a reminder, not really for the board members, but watching at home, the systems that we've created and the focal point of what we do and why we do it. And again, it's a chunking out. We can't do everything all at once. It's chunking out each year what we could do. So just wanted to share that with the board. And Mr. Gray, thank you for a great presentation. Appreciate it.
Scarpetti.
Are you finished, Mr. Gray?
I am.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Gray?
I have one comment.
Susan?
Mr. Gray, you guys have been doing a great job. All the staff is doing a fantastic job getting our buildings and schools ready. As a parent of a child who went to Peck, I really appreciate that playground. But I did just find out something while I was at that playground the other day. Dr. Scarpetti loves the We Go Round.
I'm trying to envision Dr. Scarpetti in the We Go Round.
Pushed him.
Oh, you did? He got in it, though?
Wasn't happy, but he did it.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Gray? Comments? Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Russo?
Good evening, everyone. Tonight's report is going to focus on some of our professional learning updates. The first one I'd like to report on is our math half-day grade level planning sessions. We've been preparing for those since before the start of school. Our first one will be kicked off tomorrow at Racebrook School with grade 2 teachers in the morning, grade 1 teachers in the afternoon. And these sessions will run with different grade levels at different schools throughout September and November, and they're all documented in our professional learning calendar, which our teachers and principals refer to often. So what do these sessions look like? So our math specialists facilitate them, and they collaborate with a small team of teachers of a grade level, 3 to 4 teachers, and they have an opportunity to review the year-long maps with all the units and about what time of year they should be engaging in those. They also have an opportunity to dig deeper into a teaching map for each unit and review. We call these our bird's eye view maps. So they have an opportunity to look at the resources that are linked to the learning targets and make adjustments, look at contexts where they have them, and create new ones depending on the students who are in front of them, if they think that that's a good idea. So that's kind of what goes on in those sessions. Next, we are in the process of securing a half-day session on the life science unit for our Racebrook grade 1 teachers so that they can be prepared for that unit. All the other grade 1 teachers have had that training. In addition, we facilitated a teacher and mentoring or team training, and this is a state training session or a state-required training session for all beginning teachers. It lasts up to between 2 to 3 years, and all beginning teachers need to go through TEAM in order to earn their professional licenses. They have provisional ones in the beginning, and so we had a session for TEAM already. We also were so excited to facilitate a handwriting session for our kindergarten teachers, our principals, and our reading consultants. This work started a year ago with all key stakeholders. We provided some information to the curriculum subcommittee, our superintendent, our director of special education, Mrs. Ito, and our now internal occupational therapist reviewed all the resources, and we're happy to say that we have consistent language for forming letters throughout the district. We have resources. We had an opportunity to share them with the teachers so they would be familiar with them. And they were excited about those resources. And now our reading consultants will facilitate sessions with our grade 1 and grade 2 teachers at the 1 through 6 schools. Next, we have to work on cursive writing and just confirm with our library media specialists a scope and sequence for keyboarding skills. So that's about that. We'd also like to share that we have an upcoming professional opportunity, which is a statewide Right to Read professional learning series, and we've registered a 6-person team based on the state guidance, with Dr. Scarpetti being one of those members, Mrs. Ito, Mrs. Watson, Mrs. Saxa, Mrs. Locklear representing the multilingual learners, and myself. So we'll keep you posted on that training. In addition, tomorrow morning, we are going to meet with the Orange Police Department to get started on that grant that Mr. Gray referred to. And finally, this month's Curriculum Wednesday is going to focus on teacher evaluation. For this year, it's just going to reflect the work that we did last year with the state-approved waiver while we work with members of the Professional Development Evaluation Committee, or PDEC, to meet new state guidelines for a new teacher evaluation process for next year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Russo? Go ahead, Ken.
I just wondered what the goal would be for the creative writing unit. I'm sorry, for the cursive writing unit.
That students will be able to sign important documents. Since many don't know how to read cursive. And you know, it's interesting when you're looking at primary sources and some of them are written in cursive, it's challenging for students who have never learned how to write in cursive. So, and it's also a state mandate, right, Dr. Scarpetti?
It is.
Dr. Russo, just to piggyback on that question regarding the cursive, was that a program that just was initiated? I was under the impression that the cursive program was done away with quite some years ago. Was it something that is a new initiative with the fourth graders? Yes, I did. Did they do? I thought
So this is something that is a mandate that we have to adhere to, and so we've begun that process. So it kind of fell to the wayside. I think there was some concerns that there were students that didn't know how to sign their name, and so that's where I think it's brought back to the attention of our legislators, which then it came and fell upon became a mandate now.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Anyone else for Dr. Russo? Very well. Mrs. Ito? Thank you, Dr. Russo.
Good evening, everyone. We're off to a great start. The staff have worked collaboratively to review individual education plans, otherwise known as IEPs, Section 504 plans, and transition caseloads of students so that their special needs are being addressed. Our special education staff, including paraprofessionals, continue to engage in context-embedded professional learning regarding our district advances and resources to coordinate services that support student learning. All of this continued training support the development of students' individual education plans, which leads me to CT SEDS, which is our Connecticut State Education Data System for developing and creating the IEP and the 504. As last reported, I had hoped to share with you that we had engaged our parent portal as part of the CT SEDS system. This is not yet up and running as we are working with the developer regarding continued challenges. In the meantime, I want to assure all of our listeners that we will continue to share our documents either electronically or paper or both, depending on the preference of the families. So this has not interrupted our ability to communicate to our families what the necessary documents are. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for Mrs. Ito? No? Very good. Thank you. All right. Moving on to board business. Number one is a discussion and possible action on the 2024 Board of Education meeting dates. You all received that in your packet. The reason it says possible action is I discussed it with Dr. Scarpetti. If board members would like to discuss it now and then present a motion, we could move on from it. Otherwise, we can wait until the next meeting. But I thought if it was possible, we could do it this evening. So I'm opening the floor to any discussion or comment on that calendar. Go ahead, Sue.
I was looking at it earlier before the meeting, and just for other people's clarification, because I questioned it, was the January 16th date is because of MLK, February 12th, which is a second Monday, is because of President's Day, and then the January 21st, 2025 is also because of MLK Day. So I would say that these all are in order with what we normally do, which is the third Monday of the month. So I don't see anything unusual.
That's correct, Ms. Riccio.
Does anyone want to add to the discussion or comment, make comment? Is the board in the mood to move forward with the calendar? All right. You're good? Very well. So then I'm looking for a motion to accept the Board of Education meeting dates for 2024 as presented to the board this evening. Do I have a motion? Susan, second? Susan, is that you, Mr.? Oh, I'm sorry. Ronette? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Good? Very good. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Ready to read. I feel, I'm feeling pressure
Because I'm checking your number.
from Mr. No, Mr. Simon's got me a little nervous. It's like I'm getting ready for a test. Will you, policy second read, Orange Board of Ed assignment and transfer 4114. Do I have a motion to accept policy 4114, assignment and transfer? Liz, second? Anyone? Carmen? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Policy second read, Orange Board of Education, HIV, ARC, AIDS, P4118.1. Do I have a motion to accept Orange Board of Education, HIV, ARC, AIDS, P4118.1? Tatiana, second? Anywhere? Mr. Vitale? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Policy second read, Orange Board of Education, conflict of interest, P4118 point, oh, did I miss one? Sorry. Policy second read, Orange Board of Education, drug-free workplace, P4118.232/4218.232. I'm just going to ask for a motion on this instead of rereading it again. Do you have a motion to accept that policy? Second? Carmen again. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Policy second read, Orange Board of Education, conflict of interest, P418.3/4218/3. Point 3. Almost, you got me on that one. I was hoping for an A, but I'm not going to get one, obviously. P4118.3/4218/3.
It must be the way it's written on yours.
Doing so well.
One more time.
P4118.3/4218/3.
It's a point.
Where am I?
Doing so well.
It was right there, point.
I think you're doing great, Bill.
There's no backslash. It should be a dot. That was your problem.
Oh,
It was written that way. It's okay.
oh, it's different on here?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm reading, I'm sorry, I'm reading off my book.
But the policies never have a backslash in the middle.
Okay. All right, sorry. I should be,
That wasn't, you read it.
no, it's fine. It was my fault. I should read it from here. All right. All right, we'll try it one more time. P4118.3/4218.3. Do I have a motion? For God's sakes, please.
Sure.
Liz. Second, Mr. Ziman. Any discussion? Because I'm not going to talk about it. All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Very well. Okay. Orange Board of Education tuition fees, P3240. Do I have a motion?
No, it's the first read.
Oh, first read, I'm sorry. That's a first read. First read, Orange Board of Education Personnel Non-Certified Assignment and Transfer, P4214. Policy first read, Orange Board of Education Personnel Non-Certified Supervision and Evaluation, P4215. Policy first read, Orange Board of Education Personnel Non-Certified Dismissal Suspension, P4218. Those are all first reads. Obviously, as always, contact Mrs. Hadlock if questions, Dr. Scarpetti or myself. They will be presented as second reads in, what's the October meeting? That's amazing. All right. Thank you for your patience, folks. I appreciate it. All right, moving on to standing committees. Finance and Operations. Ms. Riccio.
The Finance Subcommittee met prior to this meeting. We reviewed the financials and the grants. Everything is in order, as Mr. Gray had indicated. We're within budget where we're supposed to be.
Very good. Any questions for Ms. Riccio? Very well. Personnel Transportation Policy, Mrs. Hadlock. Mrs. Hadlock is not here. However, she did send me a brief report, and if you don't mind, I will try to read that. Okay. The Personnel and Policy Committee met on August 28th. We reviewed and discussed the policies that are first reads this evening, with any recommended changes or additions being noted. Please do not hesitate to contact Mrs. Hadlock with any questions or comments. Her committee will meet again before the next board meeting on a date to be determined. That's the policy report. Okay? Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Cap.
I do not have any additional update for Buildings and Grounds, besides what Mr. Gray presented tonight to the board, which was fabulous. And we will be scheduling a meeting soon to meet.
Any questions for Mr. Cap? Very well, thank you. Curriculum Instruction, Mr. Ziman.
We did not have a meeting, but we will be having a meeting by the end of this month. So for next meeting, everybody should have their DVR set to record.
So this month, you're running your reruns? The best of Ziman? Very nice. Okay, any questions for Mr. Ziman? Very well. ACES, Ms. Riccio.
The ACES Governing Board met Thursday, September 14th. It was our first meeting since the summer break. Our director, Dr. Danahy, presented that he had, we have, one of our magnet schools is ECA, Educational Center for the Arts. And we had, had a study done on ECA, what was good, what was not so good, what can we do differently, how can we continue to stay in the 21st century and move forward, are we really achieving the goals that we wanted ECA to achieve. And they got some really, really good information from alumni, from parents, from students, from everybody that's has been involved with ECA. And then they also talked to some of the larger districts that send students to ECA. And some of the key things were that people love ECA, and the people who go there and know it love it. One of the challenges they have is not everybody knows about it. So if you have a child who's talented and may want to do theater or drama or creative writing or some other area that ECA does, you may or may not know about it unless somebody tells you. And the challenge is some of our high schools are reluctant to tell their students that ECA is available. And part of that has to do with, you're a great theater student, you want to keep them in your district. But they can also get a great opportunity through ECA. So there's kind of a conflict sometimes. The other challenge is that the high schools have a lot of things going on, and so there's a lot more requirements on students. And so if you can't schedule your classes, students can't schedule classes in the morning only, they wouldn't be able to attend ECA because ECA is only in the afternoon. Some districts have canceled their busing, so the parents have to drive them. So there's been some challenging, and we're trying to think of ways to overcome it because so many kids have such positive either memories or positive experiences themselves. So there's a way there's a lot of things that we're going to be doing in the future. You'll hear more about that. We have 3 major construction projects going on. We had the architect and some project managers telling us what's going on. We're happy to say that Wintergreen students are in Wintergreen, the Wintergreen building. That is going through some construction also, but the construction will be going on when they're not there. We also have 88 Bassett Road, which will be a special ed school. It was a former middle school, then it became Gateway, and Gateway still is using some of the space for automotive use, and they will be staying there, and there will be truly a firewall between them and any students. So that's going on. We have a huge renovation for that starting. We're sending things into the state in the next few days. And then ACES at Chase also has a large initiative going on also, because that's supposed to be a 7 to 12 school. Each year, we're adding a grade as a magnet school. Our audit is also going well at ACES. ACES had 76 new hires. There are a bunch of openings. Yeah, there's a lot of movement. There was something like 56 movements within ACES, and people changing jobs, people retiring. There's just so many people. And we do have the Helen Duran preschool in, I think it's Watertown, but I don't quote me on that. I could be wrong on that. But it's a preschool that infuses a language, specifically Spanish, at the preschool level. And they have certain times of the day where they're only speaking Spanish. And it's not really a Spanish-speaking community, and they love it so far. So we'll keep you posted on that one as well. And our Early Head Start update, we just applied for a renewal of our 5-year grant that we get every 5 years. So we had to apply for that, and everything is fine. So that's the abridged version.
Very good. Any questions for Ms. Riccio? All right. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting. Susan, Mr. Ziman, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? We are adjourned at 7:56. Thank you.